Hey there, hi there. Top of the morning, good morning. So welcome to Whole and None. Maybe you signed up for half and half. That's half Pilates, half yoga. Let's take in the morning off, and so it's going to be all yoga, whole and none. So today we're going to go through a flowing yoga routine, a sequence. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about breathing. And what we find is that most people breathe with only a very small percentage of their lung tissue. And in general, most people, what they do is they breathe into their lower ribs. And the rest of the lung tissue up higher tends to be underutilized and sometimes really unutilized. And so the way that we're going to shift the breathing to include the lower lungs, but also include the upper lungs, is to slightly restrict the excessive movement that a lot of people have in their lower ribs. So we're going to do that using some of the Pilates ideas maybe you recall from prior sessions. In Pilates, we often use the term knit the ribs. And with knitting the ribs, it's referencing the lower ribs right down here where my fingertips are. And with an exhale, what we do is we draw those lower ribs toward each other and then lightly maintain that connection through the duration of the in-breath. Use the exhale to draw the lower ribs together, lightly maintain that connection as you inhale. If this was an infomercial right about now, I'd say, but wait, there's more. And not just the bitty cat came in to pay a visit. This vector, if you will, of lower ribs together is only one part of three parts. The other part that occurs with the out breath, in addition to ribs together, is ribs down toward the pubic bone. And lightly maintain those two vectors together and down through the duration of the in-breath. And in so doing, I now feel more breath into the upper part of the chest. Let's try that one again. Ribs together, down toward the pubic bone. But wait, there's more. Third part, final part. Lower ribs together, lower ribs down toward the pubic bone, lower ribs back into the space behind you. So let's use the next exhale to put all those three together. Exhale, together, down, back. Then maintain that lower rib connection as you inhale. Together, down, back. Lightly hold that, not too tight, not too tense. Just sort of a light hold to drive the in-breath into the upper rib cage. All right, so that's going to be our theme throughout the whole duration of this morning session, is this three-part connecting knitting of the ribs, both on the out-breath and also on the in-breath. Let's go ahead and put what you're sitting upon aside. We may come back to it a little bit later. And now let's go to the floor. Okay, full disclosure, truth in advertising. This isn't completely whole and none. We're going to do just a little bit of Pilates to reinforce this idea. So to begin with, let the floor support your body and breathe moderately deeply. Not your deepest possible breathing, and yet not shallow breathing. Split the difference. Now maintaining that middle path breath. Interlace your hands. Bring your hands behind your head. And then use your arms to lift the weight of your head. And then keep lifting your shoulders. So head comes up higher, shoulders ultimately come up. And so automatically the ribs knit. Maybe you can feel how in this process of mini crunch they move together toward each other. They move down toward your pubic bone. They move from the front of your body toward the back of your body. So holding in the mini crunch, let's take a few more breaths. Then best you can, maintaining that tripartite alignment of your lower ribs as you roll down. All right, so 3 vectors in how ribs are knit. So now let's do this 2 more times with much less instruction, much less of my talking. Moving into a mini crunch. Knit your ribs. Breathe. And then roll down. All right, one more time, last one. So maybe you're wondering, what's the point to this? Why would I care? Why should I care? Well, if you have neck pain or you have pain and stiffness between your shoulder blades, that almost always indicates that you're breathing excessively in your lower front ribs and not sufficiently higher up. And so by this knitting and relearning how to breathe in your whole rib cage, it can be like a tonic for neck pain. It can be like a tonic for pain and stiffness between the shoulders. Not to mention the joy of being able to take a deep breath. And then come on down. All right, that was our foray into Pilates land. So let's bust a move and make our way to hands and knees. And then on hands and knees, all the same stuff. So lower ribs moving from front to the body to back of the body. Lower ribs moving toward the pubic bone. Lower ribs moving toward each other. And then breathe moderately, deeply. And from hands and knees to yoga pose, head down dog. We'll take a few moments here quietly applying all the same stuff. Step your feet up to your hands, moving into gorilla. We'll pause here for a few breaths, all the same stuff. And fold, roll up, all the way up, including your arms and your chin. Arms down. Big old wide stride. So let's start with some single leg sumo. Turn your left foot in and your right foot out. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straight. Bend, straight. When you practice this tripartite knitting the ribs, don't worry if your head goes a little bit forward. That'll resolve in time. So next time your knee is in the bent position, pause there and breathe. Bent leg, lift that heel up a couple inches. And slowly over a count of 5, descend that heel down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Contact. With the next inhale, press that foot down to come up and back to the front. The other side, right foot in, left foot out. That's movement to breath. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. No, some of you may be asking the question, wait a minute, I thought we're supposed to do belly breathing, but that's really good for you. Diaphragmatic breathing is really good for you, no doubt. But a lot of people sort of misinterpret diaphragmatic breathing for breathing that really just involves the lower lobes of the lungs. So what we're talking about here, ribs together, ribs down, ribs back, does not contradict diaphragmatic breathing. It's a value added. Next time that knee in the bent position, pause there. The associated heel, lift it up a few inches, and then slowly over a count of 5, descend that heel down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Contact. Press that foot down to inhale up. Turn back toward the front. So now from your hip sockets, ball and socket joints, turn both legs a little bit out. And with the exhale, bend your ankles, hips, knees. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale. Few more. Next time in the triple flex, pause here. Lift both heels up a few inches. Keep your left heel lifted. Slowly over a count of 5, descend that right heel down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touch. Lift. Keep that right heel lifted. Slowly over a count of 5, descend your left heel down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Touch. Lift. And now both heels slowly descending down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Contact. Plant your feet into the floor. Inhale, press them more down to lift up. And bring your feet back together. It's going to take a few moments quietly to integrate what we've been exploring in standing. If you find that it's hard to inhale while you're knitting your ribs, that generally means you're on the right track. Because many people, if not most people, their rib cage is pretty restricted. So with a little bit of practice, a little bit of time, that'll free up, that'll loosen up. Knit with the out breath. Maintain the knit throughout the in-breath. Get that mobility back. Maintaining that awareness, step your feet wide apart. Turn your left foot in, right foot out. Exhale, bend. Pause. Exhale, tip. Hand to knee, hand to hip. Settle into the diagonal line. Bring that left arm forward and through. And a little turn to look up at your ceiling. Inhale up. Back to the front. Second side. Right foot in, left foot out. Wait till an exhale comes along. Bend with the out breath. Pause. Follow the out breath to tip. Hand to knee, hand to hip. Keeping that dynamic lower rib connection. Sweep your upper arm forward and through. Take a peek at your ceiling. Inhale up. Turn back to the front. Step your feet together. We'll take a few moments quietly to practice that dynamic three-part knit the ribs. Maybe you're already feeling a little bit more liveliness or energy in your upper back, between your shoulder blades. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more looseness or freeness in your neck. Is freeness a word? Maybe a freedom. So now let's move this into modified sun salutation. We're going to start with the breathing to reinforce this idea. Inhale. Exhale. Reinforce the knit as you take your arms up. Keep standing tall. Inhale, arms down. Wait a minute, that's no sun salutation. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, arms down. We're going to add in components piece by piece, bit by bit. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale up. We're going to add a piece in. Then inhale, roll your spine down from your head. Roll down. Your head hang. We'll take a few breaths here. Now, one of my favorite parts about letting my head hang here is knitting the ribs occurs naturally, spontaneously. So now with the next out breath, roll up. Inhale, arms down. This time a little bit faster. Same thing. Out breath up. In breath fold. Out breath roll up. In-breath down. Same thing, just a little bit faster. Exhale up. Another layer. Exhale up. Inhale, roll down. Whether hands are on the floor or your shins. Exhale, reach the crown of your head forward into gorilla. Inhale, fold. Exhale, roll up. Inhale, arms down. Again like that. And a few breaths in standing. So now we're going to make our way to the floor, all the way to the floor, onto our fronts, onto our bellies. So I'm going to turn sideways so that I more fit on the mat. It's going to be the same procedure. We're going to use the out breath to knit to support lifting the arms up. Inhale, spine mobilization. Exhale, thoracic extension. This time, step your feet back. There's yoga pose, head down dog again. Few breaths here. And lower yourself down to your knees, all the way down to your belly. And then begin with your hands by your armpits. And the first order of business is to create length, to decompress. To accomplish that, stretch the crown of your head forward, while at the same time stretch your toes back behind you. And what we're looking for is a lengthening in the lower back, in the upper back between the shoulder blades, and in the neck. So as best you can, keep that length in your spine as you keep your legs straight, and then slightly lift your straight legs. See if you can lift your legs not from your lower back, but from your hamstrings and from deep in your butt. Keeping your lower back elongating, we'll hold here for count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower your legs down and then press back up to hands and knees. So on hands and knees, the cat pose. Arch your spine up toward the ceiling like a Halloween cat. And as you do so, at minimum gazing toward your knees, if not toward your thighs, and perhaps even into your abdomen. Now maybe you already noticed that your lower ribs are spontaneously, naturally knitting right now. Best you can, maintain that connection, maintain that knit as you move from cat pose to spine neutral to cow pose. Feel how those lower ribs want to spill toward the floor? That's due to stiffness between the shoulder blades. So the way to work with that stiffness, the way to loosen things up, is by knitting the ribs. A few more breaths in cow. Then back to normal, usual hands and knees. And back to head down dog. We'll take a few breaths here. And then back to hands and knees. Same thing we did before, this time a little bit shorter duration. Start in cat pose. This is what knitting the ribs feels like. Don't forget to breathe. Not the shallowest, not the deepest. And then moving from cat pose into cow pose. Few breaths here. Normal neutral hands and knees. Back to head down dog. Now we're ultimately going to make our way back to the floor, back onto our bellies. Last time we did so with the intermediate step of knees to the floor. You can do that again if you'd like. Or if you'd like more challenge, you can move into a straight arm plank. And then from straight arm plank, lower yourself down. We all end up the same place. Toes back, head forward. Lengthen your spine. So if you recall what cow pose felt like in your upper back. Now keeping your legs on the floor, see if you can create that same feeling in lifting your head and your upper chest. Few breaths here. And then come on down. Can you see it coming? We're going to do lower body and upper body at the same time. So remember that sense of lengthening, toes back, head forward. Maintain that length as you lift your legs, not from your lower back, but from your hamstrings and deep in your butt muscles. At the same time, keep your ribs knit as you lift your head into the upper chest. Then reach your arms back behind you, fingers toward toes. And breathe. Breathe into your back. And come on down. Replace your hands by your armpits. Press up the hands and knees. And back to yoga pose, head down. Few breaths here. And step your feet forward to gorilla. Fold. Roll up. All right, so our sun salutations we rolled out pretty incrementally. Now we're going to add a whole bunch of steps all at once. We're going to keep with that exhale, arms up breath pattern for the time being. A few moments quietly, knit. Remember the three components. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, roll your spine down. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, dog. Inhale down to your knees, down to your belly. Exhale, locust. That's where we kept the length, lifted the legs, lifted the torso, arms back. Back to prone mountain. Press up to hands and knees. Back to head down dog. Exhale, step your feet forward. Inhale, fold. Exhale, up. Inhale, arms down. All right, now the same thing with a little sparser direction so you can more focus in on your breath. Exhale, arms up. Inhale, fold. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, dog. Inhale to the floor. Exhale, locust. Exhale, down. Inhale, dog. Exhale, gorilla. Inhale, fold. Exhale, up. Inhale, down. Big old wide stride. So those sun salutation, let's put a pin in that. We'll come back to it in a short few. In the interim, turn your left foot in, your right foot out. Match your movement to your breath. Exhale, bend. Inhale, straighten. Together. Down toward pubic bone. Back into the space behind you. Not just down the out breath, but especially during the in breath. The next time that knee bent, let's pause there. Then with an exhale tip, a little deeper than we did before. Elbow to knee, hand to hip. To tease apart adhesions in the fascia that tend to tug on the jaw, the neck, the shoulder, the chest, even into the wrists and hands. Take your upper arm up, then turn your nose to the floor and breathe. Inhale up, back to the front. Same thing, second set. So let's go into it quietly together. We're going to start with a few movements. Yep, remember, a little deeper in this version. Upper arm up, and then nose to the floor. Inhale up, back to the front, and step your feet together. So standing up tall with the lower ribs pushing forward isn't really a posture improvement. You're just shifting the problem from one place to another place, sometimes creating more problems for the lower back and the neck than were present before. 3 parts. Keeping that knit, lift your head. Keeping that knit, shoulders up, back, and down. So exploring the possibility of actually opening your chest and not the false positive of jutting the lower ribs forward. Use the inhale to help open the upper back. All right, so now what we're going to do is 3 sun salutations, challenging that knitting. And the way we're going to challenge it is to flip the breath around. So again, I'm going to turn sideways so I can better utilize the mat. Exhale, knit. This time, with the inhale, take your arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, gorilla. Exhale, back. Head down, dog. Exhale to the floor any way that you prefer. Inhale, locust. Exhale, down. Inhale, dog. Inhale, gorilla. Exhale, fold. Inhale up. Again, like that. Inhale up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, gorilla. Exhale, dog. Exhale to the floor. Inhale, locust. Exhale, down. Inhale up. Good dog. Inhale, gorilla. Exhale, fold. Inhale up. Exhale down. Now maybe you notice that when you inhale as you lift up, the lower ribs are more likely to unknit, to decouple. But if you can keep the knit and the inhale and the lift, there's this potential for this great feeling of openness between the shoulder blades and the upper chest. Nice, full, complete breath. Let's take the last one together quietly. Big old wide stride. Knees more or less straight. Right knee straight, left knee straight. Folding from your hips. Now, because of tightness that a lot of us experience, the knees are going to tend to bend as part of flexing from the hips. Now, of course, you don't want to lock your knees, but best you can, keep your knees from bending. When there's no more hip flexion, then let your spine round. So the crown of your head hangs to the floor, pours to the floor. And reach the crown of your head forward, kind of like gorilla. Maybe it's fingertips on the floor, maybe it's hands on your shins. And then lengthening your spine as you come up. So maybe you come up a little bit taller than you were before. Step your feet together. We'll take a few moments quietly to practice standing tall, really, truly opening your upper chest and your back, not just sort of the false positive that involves ribs jutting forward. All right, now we're going to use a sun salutation to make our way to the floor to do a little bit more work on the floor. So your choice, you could do the exhale arms up or you could do the inhale arms up, whichever you find works best in your system. Some sort of breath, arms up. Some sort of inhale, exhale as you fold. As you move into gorilla. As you step back. And then from head down dog, come down to your knees, down to the floor, and take a seat. So on the floor, let's start in a simple cross leg. When my kids were in school, they called this crisscross applesauce. So notice one leg is in front, one leg is behind. Doesn't matter which is which. Bring your left arm across, excuse me, right hand behind, and twist in your neck and your upper back. All the same stuff. And back in toward the middle. Then the right arm across, left hand behind. Twisting from the spine. The neck vertebra contribute, the upper back contributes, but not the lower back. Keep your navel pointing straight ahead. Then back in toward the middle. Now change the leg cross. The leg that was in front, now that's the behind leg. The leg that was behind, that's the leg now in front. Trickle, down, twist. So start with your skull turning to the right. Then the next bony segment down, rotating. Next segment down. All the way down to those lower ribs. Left hand comes across, right hand behind. Knitting the ribs. Lower ribs toward each other. Lower ribs down toward the pubic bone, in this context, toward the floor. back in toward the middle. Trickle down, twist the other direction. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, he's been talking about this tripartite thing. And on the first side, he just mentioned two of the three. Maybe he forgot. Or maybe it's hard to do and maybe we're off the hook. But in many respects, the third part is the crucial part. Move your lower front ribs toward your back. Another way to express that is your lower back ribs, broaden them. Create a little bit more space for your adrenal gland. And then back in toward the middle. So let's build upon that idea. Take your legs straight out in front, knees more or less straight. Just like we did in standing, the first phase of the movement is from your hips. When there's no more hip contribution, then involve your spine. Hands maybe come to your knees or your shins, or maybe way out there toward your toes. And breathe. And roll up. So maybe you already observed how when we do that front bend, the knitting occurs spontaneously. Now take your right leg and bring it in. It's okay if that knee is up in the air, no problem. Same thing, hip contribution first and foremost, and then spine contribution. If you're still looking at your screen, then you're tensing up your neck. To make sure that you lengthen your neck, which will mean that you look down toward the floor. Hands come forward to your capacity. And breathe. And then come on up. Both feet back to the front. Good things occur in pairs. We should do the second side. Left leg in and fold. Now, as the knitting spontaneously arises, ribs toward each other, lower ribs toward the pubic bone, maybe you've already felt how the lower back ribs naturally open up, naturally broad. So that's the third part, maybe the most important part to knitting the ribs. And then come on up, both feet forward. All right, now we do something very similar with the legs apart. You don't have to go all the way straight out. I've seen a proliferation on Facebook of people touting flexibility routines where people's legs are straight out to the side. That is not a healthy movement for the human body. Just about 90 degrees. That's as far open as you ever need to take the legs in these seated poses. And then just like we did in standing, fold from your hips when there's no more hip contribution, spine contribution. And enjoy how the space in your lower back ribs naturally opens up. then come on up. Feet together. Fold forward again, last time. And then come on up. All right. Full circle all the way back how we began. A long time ago, wasn't it? Remember we were sitting up on a stool or a chair? All right, I'll meet you there. All right. So should we put all the pieces together? So start with your feet on the floor. Let the floor support your feet. Do you feel how your toes are kind of lifting up? Let your toes drop down. Now bring awareness to how you contact the stool. Many people, if not most people, are in the backs of their sitting bones, sort of already starting a little bit slouched. So roll so that you're right on the tips, the points of those sitting bones. Feel how you're already sitting taller? And let's make sure that's a bona fide sitting taller and not just those lower ribs jutting forward. You know what to do, so let's take a few moments to do so. Where your lower back meets your back ribs, do you feel how there's a little bit more space there? So keeping that space, lift up through the crown of your head. And check to make sure you're not just lifting your face up toward the ceiling, but lifting the whole entirety of your head up toward the ceiling. And keeping that space across your back ribs. Now to open up the chest. Shoulders up, a little bit back, a little bit down. And breathe. All right. Now with the next exhale, forget all of it. Drop the breathing, drop the alignment, drop the rib knitting. So here's where there's a bit of leap of faith. We put a signal and input into the body, into the nervous system. What's going to be useful for the body is going to retain. So often people do yoga or Pilates and go, oh, now I know how I should be. I'm just going to be that way all day, every day. And it becomes another stressor in life. So as best you can, drop any of the effort, alignment, breathing, this or that. And go about your day. All right, that's it for the day. Really nice to be here with you all. Before we part, any comments? Any questions? All right, should we do it again next week? All right, if you insist. Bye-bye.